Welcome to another mathematical task, to another mathematical puzzle. Today we are dealing with a task in which there are various mathematical operations. We see here operations in brackets, division, multiplication, and addition and subtraction. To do it correctly first, you need to know the so-called order of operations. Think if you remember something like that from school. Maybe you still go to school and you know perfectly well how to do it, how this task should be done. Try to calculate it on a piece of paper. Maybe enter it in a calculator. Write down the result somewhere and wait for the solution. I encourage everyone to approach this task before I start explaining it. So I'm starting. Let's start by explaining the order of operations. It is as follows. First, the so-called operations in brackets are performed. That is, everything that is in brackets must be done first. In the first place, we have one big, very long task in brackets. And we can see that in front of the bracket there is a 3. Also note that after the 3 there is no sign of either multiplication or division, addition, subtraction. And how are we supposed to guess what we are supposed to do with this 3? This is a trick mathematical. Mathematics strives for simple notations, and whenever we have such a notation, it consists in the fact that there is simply multiplication here. Yes, we do not write it down, but we certainly know that it is there. In connection with the fact that from now on, we already know about it, I will write it down to remind you of it while calculating this task. Let's write down a small x here. It came out crooked to me. Yes, this x means that we will multiply this entire bracket by 3. But first, to multiply this bracket, we have to perform operations inside the bracket. So, since we already know that these operations in brackets are to be performed first, what next? Next are the so-called operations on powers, that is, exponentiation. Usually exponentiation looks like this is some number, let's say in our case, it is an example x to the nth power of this. So for example, it could be 2 to third. Notice that we do not have such notations here, so we do not have to perform it. Equally to powers are also roots. We could have written down, for example, the root of the letter A, or the third degree root of 4. Then, so that we would have to do something like that. Take it into account. In our calculations, however, please note that we also do not have either exponentiation or square root here, so we can skip it altogether. The next operations after those that I have already mentioned are multiplication and division, as you may remember from my other videos or you will be exploring. I remind you that such operations are performed in order from left to right. That is, if we have several mathematical operations to perform in order, we perform them in order from left to right. And in this way, for example, here we would first have to multiply 3 by 2, then divide by 4 this result and multiply this result from this division by 3. We will not do this here because, as they say, this is not our task. If you wish, write in the comment, then we will solve such a task in another video. In any case, we know that the next operations are multiplication and division. Oh, and the last operation that is performed is addition and subtraction. So at the very end, if we already have the results from the division here of what we see here, we will be able to add these numbers in brackets and at the end perform the multiplication. So let's start our calculations. We remind ourselves that we don't have powers, we don't have roots. We have a bracket, so we start with a bracket. We'll leave this 3 for the very end. We see this division here and this division. Let's do it. I remind you that a very convenient way to divide is to write down this division as fractions. And if we look at it, it's easy to reduce such a fraction by 5 because these two numbers are reduced by 5. 4 primes, or in other words 4, this will go to this place. Let's do this operation. We write down as a fraction 15/3. We can reduce both numbers by 3. 1, 5. 5 primes, or in other words 5, and this 5 will go here. So let's rewrite our entire equation in a simplified form. The division that we did here, we will enter in this place. The division that we did here, we will enter in this place. We write 3. We remember that we do not have to write this multiplication, but for the needs of this explanation, now we write it to remember it. But maybe next time you will not have to write. Here we got 4. Plus 5 minus 1. In accordance with what I said earlier, we have to perform the operation in brackets. So let's perform the operation in brackets in order. After all, remember that addition is commutative. You do not have to do it in order, so I will do it in order after all. Just so that you can see if 5 to 4 is 1, then plus 5 is 6. 6 to 1 is 5, so this whole bracket is equal to 5. We can write it down or in this way by leaving this bracket as it was before. We can also write it down this way without the bracket, and both notations are correct. You choose which one you want to calculate, which doesn't matter because you probably already know the result. If written like this operation is written down similar like that. So this is 15. The result of this operation is 15. Thank you for watching this video. Interest in my channel if you liked it or liked this task? Leave a like, subscribe. If you want more, I will try to record a lot more tasks like this, so that you have something to do in the evening or in the morning with coffee. Anyway, subscribe, like it, so that it drives me in addition. There is a possibility of supporting my channel. There you choose the levels of support yourself.